The best podcast education money can't buy in this episode of Podcastification. My name is Kerry Green, and I am the client happiness guy at podcastfasttrack.com, and this is Podcastification. This show is all about podcasting. How to do it, how not to do it, best practices, interesting news items that have to do with the realm of podcasting, and who knows what else. And I'm trying to do it all with a little bit of fun and some information to help you get a show going, keep yours going, or make it better. And if you like what's going on here on the show, I would appreciate it, so appreciate it, if you could leave a rating or review on iTunes. You can find out how to do that at podcastfasttrack.com/review. That's enough of that kind of stuff. Let's get you podcastificated right away. The best podcast education money can't buy. What does that mean? Well, it's my not-so-clever way of introducing you to this, my new podcast about podcasting. Yeah, I know there are a lot of great podcasts about podcasting already going. Let me assure you, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, just trying to let you in on the lessons I've learned on my podcast journey. And it's a different kind of a journey. More on that in just a minute. But before we move on, let me pause to say a tiny bit about some of the podcast educators who are already out there. The best podcast education out there is actually pretty good. There are some powerful personalities and very knowledgeable coaches out there who are doing truly helpful, consistent work to help us all get a little bit further down the road. Since you're listening to a podcast about podcasting right now, you probably know all the people I'm going to mention. But I need to pay tribute to them for all they've done to help me along. So hold your horses while I wax eloquent here. Got to start off with Cliff Ravenscraft, also known as the Podcast Answer Man. Cliff is the first guy to really make it big as a podcast instructor for podcasters. He's really done it well, and I give him high marks. He's a man of integrity, and I've enjoyed getting to know him through his podcast. If I ever have the opportunity to thank him in person, you can be sure I will. If you never listened to Cliff's show, Podcast Answer Man, you've just dispelled my doubts about extraterrestrial life, because you must be from another planet. There's David Jackson, aka the original podcast coach. I've had a handful of email interactions with David over the years, and he's a swell guy. He's really the very first guy who saw the need for education about podcasting, and he's occupied a very important place in the podcasting space for years. He runs schoolofpodcasting.com if you're ever in need of that kind of help. When was it, Dave, 1995, that you started teaching people about technology and the internet? And he started School of Podcasting in 2005. As you can see, Dave's been at this podcasting thing a long time and has a thing or two to tell you about it. If you've never heard David's shows, yep, he's got more than one. He's your classic overachiever. You're missing out. His relaxed manner and wonderful sense of humor are refreshing. Check out School of Podcasting and Ask the Podcast Coach. And there's Daniel J. Lewis. Daniel J. is the guy behind an award-winning podcast, The Audacity to Podcast. By award-winning, I mean he's won the #1 technology podcast back in 2012 at the Podcast Awards. His show's full of tips, tricks, insights, thoughtful considerations, all kinds of good stuff. I've chatted with Daniel a few times, and I even interviewed him once. You can find a link to that in the show notes at podcastfasttrack.com/001. And I also find Daniel to be just a likable, helpful guy who really knows what he knows. Give his show a listen at theaudacitytopodcast.com. And then rounding out my list is Ray Ortega. The first thing I have to say about Ray is that he's amazingly gracious and very helpful. In my beginning days as a podcaster, I dunned him over Twitter more than once, and he was always quick to respond, kind, and very helpful. He's got the branding thing down with his @PodcastHelper Twitter moniker. Ray's actually employed by his boss to do podcasting for the company and teaches the rest of us by night or whenever he does it. Ray's another overachiever. He's got 3 different shows going on. There's the Podcaster Studio, Podcast Quick Tips, which he hasn't updated for some time, but there's a ton of great info in the archives. And then there's Podcasters Roundtable, an amazing podcast built off a Google Hangout. Check it out. I'm sure there are many others who do a fine job educating the rest of us unwashed masses about best podcast practices and such and so forth, but these are the guys who have influenced me the most. And here I am, looking at all of that amazing competition and daring to throw my hat into the ring too. And that's just it. I don't see any of those guys as competition. I see them as comrades, friends, fellow educators trying to podcastify the whole world for the greater good. So here's why I think I can add to the best podcast education that's out there. You see, I'm both a podcaster and a podcast producer. I've experienced the headaches and learning curve of figuring out the podcast thing, and I've gone on to create a thriving business that comes alongside busy, successful podcasters in order to give them back their time while still creating amazing sounding audio. In talking to clients, prospective clients, and running my business every day, I feel like I approach the podcasting scene from a pretty unique perspective. I get to work with a lot of podcasters on a daily basis. I regularly hear lots of headaches, problems, and hangups podcasters face. I'm talking with new prospective clients daily, so I understand the needs they have as newbies to the podcast world. And I'm just a regular guy who loves the simplicity of podcasting and wants to keep it that way. All of that gives me the opportunity to hear firsthand accounts of the struggles of newbie and experienced podcasters. And having done this for a while now, I really do believe I can help you. So, the Podcastification podcast is born. My goals for the show are pretty simple. I want the episodes to be short, generally speaking. If any episodes hit over 15 minutes, ever, I'll be surprised. The exception might be the occasional interview conversation. And yes, I mean occasional on the interviews. Most of the stuff you hear on this show will be my opinions and hard-learned tips to help you make your show the best podcast it can be. I'm not the ultimate expert, but I do know some stuff. I also want to have fun. The music's fun, my attitude is fun, I hope, and the content should be fun. I believe it's a sin to bore people, and I hope you feel the same. I want to build relationships with you, the listener. Really, I do. If you ever want to reach out to me, email is the ticket. Carrie@podcastfasttrack.com. And no sponsors. Ever. I'm not going to waste your time with ads. You come here to get content, so I'm going to give you content. The only way I ever intend to make money from this show, which I do believe is a good thing for podcasters, is through lead generation. If listening to this show builds trust between you and me and you decide to contact my team to help with your podcast, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. The only thing like an advertisement that you'll ever hear on this show are for my services and courses. And here's my promise to you about that. They'll be very infrequent and mainly in the closing segment of the show. So once you hear the closing music start up, feel free to skip it. So here we go. Podcastification. The best podcast practices as often as I can get them recorded. Feel free to leave comments on each episode. I'll do my best to pretty link the show notes on www.podcastfasttrack.com/ and then the 3-digit episode number so that you can easily find the show notes pages. Feel free to contact me. As I said, I aim to be accessible. Feel free to tell others about the show. And feel free to leave a rating and review on iTunes. Now that you're feeling so free, go podcastificate your world. Thanks for listening. This show is brought to you by Podcast Fast Track, where my team provides professional podcasting services without the time suck. Full production, editing, and show notes all in one monthly subscription package. You can find out more at podcastfasttrack.com. Now go out and make it a podcastificating day. You see, I'm both a podcaster and... Wow, I got a bubble in my throat.